What happened to Spectre Divide? This is often called Shrouds Game and a competitive 3v3 tactical shooter. It has mixed reviews on Steam, averaging around 5,000 to 7,000 players on Steam charts. However, it can dip as low as 1,500 or 2,500 at points throughout the day. Actually, if we cross these numbers with Shroud's own streams, he's often getting double the amount of views playing his own game than there are people actually playing it. Not to mention, the shop is extraordinarily overpriced, 70 Canadian dollars for a bundle like this, with quite minimal effects and overall a pretty ugly skin that just does not hit the spot at all. There is no wow factor nor premium feel for $70. Now, I am a Valorant channel, so don't get me wrong. Valorant is very overpriced, but Riot is a billion-dollar company and the premium cosmetics are not even close in terms of quality. Both are overpriced, but still, someone like Riot is more likely to get away with it, and that's not even counting the fact that Riot themselves got a lot of flack at the time, and people still till today hate the upgrade system that cost money, and Spectre Divide decided, hey, as an underdog, let me copy something extremely bad, as if that's gonna help them at all when it comes to breaking through in the scene. When you're an underdog, when you have a lot to fight for, you have to do things 10 times better to even get your foot down. Now, I am not gonna be a hypocrite. I'm gonna be transparent. I had early access to Spectre Divide and had some positive thoughts, some negative as well, but some positive thoughts, because it does do some things right, and inherently it's a pretty fun game. But still, with all that being said, clearly the negatives are outweighing the positives as it is struggling to keep its head over water. Let's start with the single best positive about the game, which is its inherent structure of having the two Spectres. You playing as two characters, making it sort of like a 6v6, but you control two, is not bad, and it's actually executed pretty well. It's exciting, there's a high skill ceiling for it. I think it's more fun because instead of just one death and I'm gone, I'm more engaged throughout the entire game. Like, I am inherently playing throughout the entire round way more, and it eases the pain and boredom that the tactical shooter genre can suffer about being eliminated early, or, you know, not being able to take as many crazy risks and have it pay off. That part is good. Actually, it is single-handedly the best thing about this game, to the point that if this game does not succeed, I hope someone steals this idea and goes makes a premium version, or like something along those lines, because this concept itself has potential. I will stand behind that. It has a lot of potential, but that's basically where a lot of the good ends when it comes to this game. And let me explain why. Because as I'm playing this game, if we take a step back and you start spending more and more time with it, there are a ton of pitfalls, and we're gonna start with some of the biggest overarching ones, and that there's kind of like a lot of public outcry for it and a lot of critical judgment. Now, let me say one thing. People who just call it a shameless Valorant clone or something like that, I'm gonna say bugger off. It doesn't make much sense. It isn't a one-to-one clone. They don't even play that similar. They're just both tactical shooters in a sense, and there are some UI elements and such, but it's weird. It doesn't feel like I'm playing Valorant, because there's a lot of things that are so different, which are a good jab at being unique, but they fall through. And let me explain. First of all, obviously the graphics are completely different. The graphics I thought were pretty good at first, or I thought they were a cool idea, but maybe as an animated show more than a game. Things are cluttered. They are hard to see. It's hard to read a lot of things on the map. The abilities specifically are the worst. If you were to say just the characters and map are one thing, okay, but then this art style did not translate to utility at all. Like, oh my goodness, look at like when I'm throwing a little scanner dart here or something like that. My goodness, what is that? I can't even tell what it's scanning or nor in what direction. I can't, even when someone's pinged, it's just a little yellow octagon. It is visually yikes. In the trailers and in the first impressions, I was like, okay, I could see this being cool. But then in the midst of action, I had a funny moment when I tried to shoot my own teammate, and literally I thought people would make fun of me, but the top comment at the time was, why is it so hard to tell who's who? That's not a good start. All right, now, with that being said, I actually don't hate the graphics as much as other people. I am specifically going to nitpick about the ability usage mainly, because when it comes to abilities, I am having trouble understanding what's what, and you could say that comes with time, but I'm not entirely sure, because if you play something like Counter-Strike or Valorant, which I've played both, they're very obvious. I understand what's going on at all times, but I feel with this stuff, the way the utility moves and blends with the map just ain't it, and that's the biggest downside of these graphics. I would say map-wise and and color-wise, it's okay. Like, you can see where the boxes are here. You can understand the angles. I'm even getting used to the enemies. That's all good. To be honest, I won't be as critical as others in general, except the fact that the abilities should either take on a new form, like you can see again, the scanner just complete ass, or maybe they just need to be made overall more clear, and that is my final take on the graphics. However, this game suffers from something even worse than all of that, which is guns and gunplay. I was happy to see that when I made a comment on the fact that I'm not finding the guns overall great to use, that a lot of other people resonated with me. There are a couple solid guns that do feel pretty good to use, but the vast majority just feel sort of meh, with very little character or even to understand their exact use case. That definitely does come with time, but still, picking up a gun and using it should feel sort of instinctive. Again, Counter-Strike and Valorant have to be the two benchmarks because they're the two big dogs in this space. No matter what gun you pick up in Valorant, it just clicks. The way you use it and what you expect to use out of it clicks. Yes, there is a skill ceiling, but with this game, anything I pick up doesn't click. I'm like, I don't know, should I angle certain ways? What's really the range for these? It was hard to understand, other than bullet goes pew pew and it either does no damage and feels weak, or it does decent damage and feels strong. That's like that was my only judge. I couldn't just shoot it and understand, which other games you very certainly can. But the guns are one thing. The next thing is gunplay. With this one, I wasn't entirely sure because I didn't hate it or anything at the start, but now I think I finally fully grasped what's making it not feel great to play. And the reason is because it's focusing on aim down sight gunplay doesn't actually inherently make it bad. That doesn't make sense. Rainbow Six Siege is aim down sight gunplay for the most part, and it works really well. This game is very, very similar to Rainbow Six in the sense if you do aim down the sight to get way more accurate, you can sort of jiggle that way as long as you're aiming down sight. If you're going to hip fire, make sure it's not at a great distance and do it slowly and you can still get a kill. It really is like Rainbow Six Siege in its fundamentals there, so that shouldn't make it inherently bad, but why does it feel so much worse to play it in this game? And to be honest, it took a little bit of time, but I think it finally clicked. And you guys may now agree or disagree. I'm not the craziest player, nor can I really say I'm qualified to make the most in-depth analysis. But with that being said, I think it comes down to one thing: the maps. It's the way the game is designed. Rainbow Six Siege aim down sight makes a lot of sense because of the type of angles and fights you're taking. We're talking about a lot of destructible walls. We're talking about a lot of really funny and crazy off angles. That's what Rainbow Six Siege is known for. And we're talking about a lot of tight gameplay. We're talking about a lot of jiggling around corners, right? You can literally tilt left and tilt right in very narrow, long corridors. You're talking about very tight-knit maps, etc., that lend to the gameplay and gunfights of Rainbow Six. It's all about taking position and holding very obscure angles, so aim down sight feels like such a natural cause for that. While this is using that aim, but CS/Valorant style maps, and they're all cool. I don't want to say big because they are pretty well interconnected, and I don't even think the map design is that bad. They're pretty easy to understand, and while I can get lost as a new player, I don't want to call them straight bad because there's definitely way worse maps or way worse map designs in a lot of other games, so I won't call them bad, but I would say that they do not synergize with the gunplay of Spectre Divide. Having these wider maps where like I literally just want a wide swing and angle to be able to take a gunfight, but having to force slow peek from a very long open sight leaves me vulnerable consistently. It can make you feel quite bounded. Now, with that being said, yes, of course, there's tons of abilities, so I had to change up the kit that I have, I suppose, and I found when I'm playing a smoke agent, I'm able, or I said agent, whatever it's called, kit, I'm able to throw down the smoke and sort of change my angles a lot more freely move around. At one point, I even used the Spectre to take an off angle. So there's definitely ways, but it depends on the kit you're using. And I feel like a lot of the strategies I use here just won't work for long. Like the minute I'm playing ranked or there's some high ranking players against me instead of a lot of new players, including myself, it just won't work. A lot of things are very predictable right now. If I throw a smoke to change angles, they are just peeking around to take a gunfight. This won't happen often. And if I'm stuck in a corner, most high level players, especially with teamwork, will be able to pin me down in that corner, and just not being able to like wide swing and try to, let's say, spray transfer in CS or have a movement ability like a jet dash or neon slide to sort of get out of the way, or even an omen TP, makes it feel a lot more restrictive if you get pinned down in a corner. Like clutching is a lot more, I suppose, difficult in a certain sense. But then it's also sort of worsened by the fact that I can't select two separate guns. Like the kits are bounded by each other, and I absolutely despise despise that the more that I play. There is no reason that if one of my Spectres survived a full buy round, I can't take the full buy into the next round and just buy like a sheriff or whatever they call it, like a deagle for my other Spectre, and then I can play an eco on that Spectre pushing up trying to get a gun from an enemy while still using my main gun as backup. Like, we should be able to mix and match. Why can't I buy like I want to buy a certain sniper and a certain shotgun separately so I can play one Spectre smoke up close while my other Spectre is holding my angle behind. Like, your biggest thing is that Spectre. You gotta play off of it way better, and the shop restricts it a ton and makes the whole gun system way worse. How am I supposed to feel the characters of certain guns when I'm forced to buy them in pairs that I may not even enjoy? Again, if it wasn't for that Spectre is anchoring everything. That Spectre is the best thing about this game, and I mean it. When you are popping off on a clutch and you use your Spectre and you swap between different angles, it is exciting, man. It is fun. They did extremely well when it comes to the Spectre, and I think I need to make one thing clear here. I played some of this game to get the background footage and make a proper discussion, and it is still fun. That's the thing. I am giving it a lot of flack and sort of analyzing maybe why it's not succeeding. I can't be the reason it's not succeeding. Doesn't matter if I'm saying something positive now or negative. The numbers are the truth here, and I'm just sort of trying to dissect it. I still think the game is fun, and a lot of people playing the game say it's a shame it's not doing better because they're having fun, and it's because underlying problem here is it is fun, but it needs to be more than fun to break into this sector. It needs to genuinely be something great. The FPS section, it's just not even tactical shooter, just the FPS section is extremely, and I mean extremely competitive. I don't think you don't need me to tell you that. A lot of people here already know that. So what I'm going to do is I just opened up another tab and I'm going to search the finals on Steam charts. It currently has 13 or 14,000 players as of 25 minutes ago. It peaked at 242,000 all time, and it goes up and down through the day quite a lot, averaging, it can go up to like 17,000 during the day. Not too bad, but it is a far cry from its original launch, and it continuously month after month is in the negative. Like, every single month minus June, the game is losing players. So it's one thing to even be, and that game was considered, I don't want to say great, but it was considered something extremely fun. It was something that did trend. There's a lot of people who absolutely love that game, and it peaked. I mean, 250,000 consecutive players is huge compared to like what Spectre Divide launched with, but still it's fallen off a cliff, because even if Spectre Divide did a ton of things right, sustainability is insane in this sector. Like I said, you can't only do something fun, you have to do something fantastic, and it has to be so good and so consistent with a ton of momentum to actually solidify a player base for the long term, something substantial. That is a huge feat to accomplish, and Spectre Divide is very far off of it, and it's why I'm nitpicking on a lot of things, even if I overall find the game fun. Even if overall, if homies wanted to hop on and try this game or play around, I would have fun. Like a group of 3, you could have a ton of fun with this. It is a fun medium, and it's free to play, so people can just hop on. Like it's hard to say anything super negative, but still, if we're talking about a discussion of if it can succeed or if it will continue to fall over the long term and maybe even die out, we have to dive into every corner possible to truly understand that. And there's still one final nail to hit, so let's overview here. The graphics aren't spectacular, and in my opinion, the utility suffers a ton when it comes to visibility. We have gunplay that is sort of, let's just say, hit and miss, because when it works very well, but the map doesn't feel like it synergizes well with it. You have guns that you're sort of forced to use as you buy in pairs, and worst of all, the game is lacking character. The Spectre, again, is top tier, but the game itself is lacking a ton of character. And I mean it like literally, like there's just sort of these operators or like soldiers. They're just a bunch of soldiers. No one cares. No one knows. Like, they're just soldiers, and you pick a kit, but then they're almost like abilities, but apparently they're utilities. So almost like Counter-Strike. There's a bunch of characters, then you buy utility, but you pre-select it. So it's sort of the worst of Counter-Strike with the worst of Valorant. Counter-Strike doesn't feel like it really has characters. I know some people are going to hate me for that. I understand there's soldiers, but Counter-Strike's iconic, okay? We have to talk about in the sense of being a new game having to break in this space today, not an OG title with countless years of history, okay? Versus Valorant, who has very in-depth agents, but you don't mix and match the kit or anything like that. But because you don't mix and match a kit, each character is bounded by those abilities. In this case, you have a bunch of soldiers. You cannot mix and match the kits, but there's no character on these soldiers because you select the kit irregardless of who you're playing, it's a mess. It genuinely is a mess. I would have preferred more leaning on the Spectre. Like each Spectre is a character. Like pretend, I'm sorry to use Valorant, but pretend you were playing Valorant and you have two characters, let's say like Phoenix and Jet. You select those two, and when I'm swapping between my Spectres, it's two sets of abilities, right? That would make a lot things more. It's like they kind of nerfed their own best mechanic with the whole gun pairing, and you sort of just select these kits. Like either lean one way or the other, meaning I can buy certain util on one Spectre and certain util on the other, or just two complete characters with their own personalities that I select both. I like how the game doesn't use ultimates. That's good. That'd be way too chaotic. And then there's just then there's more going on. Like there's a lot more cool. Imagine I can wombo combo with myself. There you go. Sorry, I started tripping over my words. Imagine two sets of abilities and I'm wombo comboing with myself. The Spectre is the best thing in this game. Leaning in on it more would have made this game even more special. It would have probably helped it out a ton. I don't know if it really would have got players playing or nothing, but I'm just imagining, and I'm seeing a lot of untapped potential when it comes to creativity and single-handed gunplay, or I guess playmaking potential. How much you as an individual can make a play and change the round is already higher on Spectre Divide since you control two characters, and how much higher it could have been with more creativity, because creativity helps make sure that we delay burnout and sort of the bore of the game, and Spectre Divide just didn't take advantage of those Spectres to make it super creative. In the end, that's just my opinion. I feel like Spectre Divide is a game that could have been. Yes, it was sort of, it wasn't hate bombed completely. There is some invalid criticism of being a copy. I think it's a lot more of a nuanced conversation. It is a game that has potential, that maybe already took a direction that is sort of irreparable when it comes to graphics and the base mechanic, the Spectres not being utilized enough, with a lot of downfalls that will be hard to change. They could polish some more of the gunplay. They can change the shop to buy separately, I'd hope, and they can definitely add maps that complement the gunfight more. But I don't know how much they're actually willing to change or go back to the drawing board, and this might just end up being a drawn out death, because I am trying to think objectively here, what could the game do to really spike player base? If the actual launch wasn't that successful with Shrouds promotion and getting a ton of big name streamers playing all together, then how much more does it have left in it? Keep in mind, Apex Legends was a game that basically marketed itself just like that. Came around with launch, ton of streamers played it together, people were interested just by watching and wanted to try it. But this is a free-to-play game. If people aren't interested just by watching and wanting to try it, that's pretty bad. Free-to-play on Steam of all platforms. The accessibility is basically bar to none. You open the client, you hit download, you try it out. It's like 8 gigs. So yeah, if it's not working yet, it's gonna be hard to see a huge come up. And I didn't even touch on even more nuanced stuff like the ranking system and the actual ranks themselves being extraordinarily uninspired. So again, sort of cycles back to the lack of character in this game, and it is just plastered all over the place. Generic with a cool idea that was not fleshed out is sort of how I see Spectre Divide today, even though it is good fun, and I would honestly say give it a try because it's free, and with some friends it is good fun. Even if you only play a few matches, that's still great value for you. If you had fun for free, why not, right? But again, irregardless, my opinion, let me know what you think down below. Time to stop yapping. Bye bye.